The world of the mobile rays, or devil rays, can overcome any barrier between oceans, crossing the boundary between shallow seas and the deepest regions of the Great Sea, and even the ultimate challenge of the ocean, the line between the sea and the sky. Found in tropical and temperate regions around the world, the mobile genus contains some of the most incredible creatures to have ever appeared on this planet. There are over 500 species of rays in the ocean, but only 11 different species of mobile rays. All of them have a distinct diamond-shaped body structure with a pair of wings that allows them to glide swiftly through the water, showcasing their beauty, elegance, and incredible grace. Occasionally, some smaller species of flying rays will gather together in astonishing numbers. They leap from the water's surface in impressive balletic jumps. Other species of flying rays are extremely large, so large that their bodies seem to defy gravity. The giant oceanic manta ray is the largest ray in the world, with a wingspan that can reach over 8 meters, about 26 feet. Their enormous size makes them stand out in the deep blue ocean. They fascinate humans, and only the luckiest people have the chance to see them with their own eyes in the ocean. But it's not just their large size. They are also very social and often curious about the presence of divers and humans. This is because the giant manta ray is also a very intelligent animal. Mantas have the largest brains of all fish, and their brain-to-body mass ratio is significantly larger than that of the giant whale shark. And as it turns out, giant oceanic manta rays hold more mysteries than people once knew. Until recently, scientists classified the giant manta ray and the reef manta ray in the genus Manta, but a deeper analysis of their morphology and genetics led to a reconsideration, placing them in the genus Mobula, along with the smaller devil rays. And now scientists know that the giant oceanic manta ray is not the animal they once thought it was. It's not simply a plankton-eating fish in shallow waters, but a creature that lives secretively in the deep sea. Their movement is so efficient that robotics teams around the world are trying to replicate it. The giant manta ray not only dives deeper than we thought, but it also moves more efficiently than any other creature. It has also been observed that giant manta rays can rapidly change their colour and patterns, something that is virtually unheard of in the world of elasmobranchs. Giant manta rays are enormous, intelligent, and still hold many mysteries. Why did the oceanic manta ray evolve to be so gigantic? And how can such a large body move so efficiently? What are they doing when they dive to the cold, dark depths of the ocean? And what is the significance of their colour changes? This video explores the secrets of the giant oceanic manta ray. When the giant oceanic manta ray glides through the water, it flaps its giant pectoral fins, creating a sensation of flying. The Mobula genus diverged from sharks about 200 million years ago. Their pectoral fins expanded and formed what we now call a disc. For the giant oceanic manta ray, this expansion is extreme. Their wingspan can reach over 8 meters. Their pectoral fins account for about 85% of their body length. For sharks of a similar size, their pectoral fins only make up 10 to 15% of their body length. But what benefit do such giant wings offer compared to the more typical body shape of a shark? When observing the behaviour of a giant manta ray compared to a great white shark of similar size, we see that the great white is a fast, powerful swimmer, but its bursts of speed come from only one direction. It's difficult for great white sharks to hunt more agile prey. Compare this to the manta ray. They often swim in tight, somersaulting loops and can change direction continuously to hunt clusters of plankton or to evade other predators. Its maneuverability and agility are almost unprecedented in animals of such a large size. This is largely thanks to the giant manta ray's large and very flexible wings. Although the overall shape of a manta's fin is similar to a bird's wing, this fin can undulate and bend in many more ways than a bird's wing. Mantas have many support structures inside their pectoral fins, and all these structures can be controlled independently. However, while maneuverability is useful for hunting or evading predators, it comes at a price. Maneuverability is simply instability, and without control and good stability, an animal cannot move steadily and efficiently along a predetermined course. Fortunately, giant manta rays can strike a balance between these opposing traits. They have excelled at both maneuvering and maintaining stability and efficiency. One way mantas maintain stability is with wings that are longer and narrower relative to their body size. This design optimizes them for gliding through the vast open waters of the ocean. It's like a tightrope walker holding a long pole. As they walk, the extra length helps to balance the body. High aspect ratio wings also help generate lift efficiently, and the manta's use of its pectoral fins also makes its swimming highly efficient and sometimes surprisingly fast. On average, a giant manta ray swims at about 15 kilometers an hour of mass per hour. But when escaping danger, they can swim at speeds up to 35 kilometers an hour. Manta rays combine fin movement with an oscillating motion. The oscillation is the up and down flapping of the wings that creates great thrust and lift. But at the same time, the oscillating wings also undulate, sending a wave moving from the body outward to its flexible wingtips. When a giant manta ray flaps in this way, its fins disturb the water and create vortices that push against the surrounding water, propelling the animal forward. These two types of movement make the giant manta ray an extremely efficient swimmer. Scientists have measured their propulsive efficiency at 89%. This efficiency is so powerful and effective that researchers are trying to design autonomous underwater vehicles modeled after the shape and abilities of this giant fish. They hope that machines inspired by nature's designs will be able to map the seabed, perform search and rescue missions, and inspect underwater technology more quickly and efficiently than current technologies. Based on their pancake-like shape and flapping wings, you might assume that mobular rays are just a larger version of stingrays. It's true that they all belong to the subclass Elasmobranchi of cartilaginous fish, along with sharks and skates. But there are some significant differences between mobulars and stingrays. Mobulars have their mouth at the front of their body, not underneath. They have cephalic lobes, which are two fin-like appendages around the mouth. This structure is unlike the head of most stingrays, and these lobes do not have any electroreception capabilities. Rather, they are there to help channel water and plankton straight into the mouth. These cephalic lobes make the mobular ray the only vertebrate to have 6 limb-like appendages instead of 4. They have 2 at the mouth, 2 pectoral fins that act as wings, and 2 pelvic fins at the rear. Although stingrays have a long, stinging barb, in most mobular species, including the giant manta ray, their tail has lost its sting, and sometimes people don't even notice the tail's existence. Another difference is something you can't see unless you get up close and observe one of these species directly: their teeth. Stingrays have grinding teeth that help them eat crustaceans and fish. Mobular rays, on the other hand, only have teeth on their lower jaw, and these are just small peg-like and irregular teeth. They are also quite useless for chewing prey. For the mobular, they only use these teeth during mating, when the male needs to hold on to the female. Instead of crushing prey, mobular rays are filter feeders. When plankton is abundant, they simply open their mouths and swim through. They don't even need suction. Everything in their path falls into their large oral cavity. The manta ray filters its prey through its gill plates. From fossil records, it is known that the transition from chewing and swallowing prey to filter feeding in mobula rays began around 50 million years ago, perhaps after the extinction event of the dinosaurs about 66 million years ago. At this time, some of the large predatory animals in the ocean disappeared, opening up a vast and suitable environment for plankton. Additionally, there was a geological event called the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum that occurred about 55 million years ago. At this time, global temperatures rose by 5 to 8 degrees Celsius, leading to a boom in plankton growth. Whatever the reason, mobula rays became plankton eaters, and this process led to another remarkable event. The rays evolved and became gigantic. But how does a diet consisting only of tiny plankton allow this creature to grow so large? Researchers have discovered that the potential for gigantism is not limited by trophic level or the type of food an animal eats, but rather depends on the quality and abundance of that food source and the animal's ability to exploit it. There is a biological theory about this concept called Cope's rule, which hypothesizes that evolutionary lineages tend to increase in body size over time because being larger improves survival. For apex predators, this is only true to a certain extent. There's no point in just getting bigger to have no enemies. But for plankton eaters, being larger provides a better advantage. Large size increases their feeding range because their swimming efficiency is higher, allowing them to travel farther to find plankton. A large energy storage capacity also allows them to make longer journeys between rich feeding grounds without needing to constantly refuel. A larger mouth and increased body surface area also allow them to process more water and collect more plankton. But perhaps the biggest advantage of being so large is that they are less likely to be preyed upon, and an adult manta ray has very few natural enemies. However, history has shown us that larger animals are also at a higher risk of extinction because large organisms are often more vulnerable to environmental crises, as they require a larger amount of food and resources. A long reproductive period is also a disadvantage for them. Large organisms have a much longer reproductive process than normal species. Their gestation period alone can last up to a year, and females may only give birth every few years. The manta ray's survival strategy is similar to that of some other animals in history, like the mammoth. But anyway, for the giant manta ray, being able to exploit the abundant plankton in the ocean was worth the risk. For a long time, it was thought that shallow water plankton was all that giant manta rays ate. They were frequently seen swimming around shallow coastal waters, mouth agape, catching plankton. Some people thought that was the end of the story. But as it turns out, manta rays don't just inhabit sunny, shallow waters. In fact, they are also residents of the deep sea, very deep, down to the midnight zone of the ocean. For decades, scientists have struggled to fully understand the life of the giant manta ray, but tracking them is an incredibly difficult task. Giant manta rays are known to travel very long distances, and when scientists are lucky enough to spot one, it's usually in shallow water. Therefore, for a long time, everything known about giant manta rays came from these shallow areas. But as time went on, some researchers had a hunch that there was more to the manta's behaviour than what they were observing. To understand better, researchers went to Ecuador, home to the largest known population of giant manta rays. Here, they collected small muscle samples from mantas, as well as plankton samples. They wanted to analyse the manta's body to determine if its diet consisted entirely of shallow water plankton. To do this, they compared the nitrogen and carbon isotopes in both the plankton and the manta's muscle tissue. Nitrogen isotopes are particularly useful because they can tell us what marine creatures are eating. The nitrogen ratio increases with each step up the food web. In other words, top predators like sharks and tuna will have a much higher nitrogen ratio than herbivorous plankton. And carbon isotopes are also very useful for tracing the origin of food. For example, surface plankton and deep-sea plankton have different levels of carbon. What the researchers found in the case of the giant manta ray was that its chemical signature did not correlate with surface plankton. It was as if they were eating food from the mesopelagic zone, a much deeper layer of the ocean. Subsequently, scientists attached satellite tags to the mantas and discovered that they were diving to depths of 1,400 meters, about 4,600 feet. Another group of researchers tagged mantas off the coast of Peru to see how they moved throughout the day. They noticed that 3 of the mobula species dived much deeper at night than during the day. They might stay closer to the surface during the day as a way to warm up, as giant manta rays are ectothermic, meaning they cannot generate much of their own body heat and must rely on the surrounding environmental temperature to stay warm. But deep diving isn't the only surprising movement these giant oceanic manta rays make. It seems they are moving around their habitat in ways different from what we once thought. For a long time, it was believed that giant oceanic manta rays were ocean travelers, moving great distances from one feeding ground to another. And that is probably true for some manta populations. A survey lasting over 4 years by scientists along the east coast of the United States detected over 5,000 sightings of giant manta rays and saw them moving up and down the coast in areas hundreds of miles apart, depending on the water temperature. They can make very long-distance migrations. But other researchers observing giant manta rays around Mexico and Indonesia found that the mantas there did not swim more than 250 kilometers, about 155 miles, from where they were first tagged. It seems they stuck much closer to their feeding areas than researchers expected. Manta rays also have very region-specific diets, so the fact that they don't travel far may be due to the abundant food sources in those areas. Finding and studying these more geographically stable manta populations could open a new chapter in manta research. And it's clear that we still have much to learn about them, including some basic things like whether this mysterious creature can change its body colour, and if so, why we still don't know much about this spectacular ability. Manta rays are often described as having one main colour pattern called a chevron, with dark blue or black on most of their dorsal side, along with 2 triangular white patches on their head. The ventral side is mostly white with various black patterns and patches. But when researchers observed captive individuals, they were surprised to see the giant manta's colours change rapidly. The skin around the eyes, mouth, inside the cephalic lobes, and even the V-shaped markings on their back would lighten or darken quickly when these individuals interacted socially with each other or just before they were fed. So this is really something scientists need to look into. All the colour changes reversed fairly quickly, but researchers didn't know how or why the giant mantas put on such a display. It's only known that they have good vision and a large brain, so it's possible the colour change is related to their social behaviour. And this ability is not limited to the giant oceanic manta ray. The smaller reef manta ray has also been observed to change colour. It's an interesting hint that manta rays are much more complex than we know. Another piece of evidence for their intelligence is the mirror self-recognition test. This experiment is often considered one of the most reliable ways to assess an animal's cognitive and self-awareness abilities. For terrestrial animals like chimpanzees, it's easy to assess their reflection in a mirror. Although researchers can't easily perform this task on manta rays, they have observed that mantas repeat their actions in front of a mirror significantly more often than under normal conditions. The movement of their cephalic lobes also increased, as if they were looking at their own faces. It's not entirely possible to say whether they passed this mirror test, but the results are fascinating nonetheless. And while it's very difficult to quantify the intelligence of any animal, especially the giant manta ray, it is known that they have the largest brain in the fish world, in terms of proportion. In the Mobula genus, the telencephalon is the largest part of the brain, accounting for 61% of the total mass. This is also the brain region associated with memory, learning ability, complex social behaviour, and higher sensory processing. There are many characteristics of the giant manta ray that make them unique. Their brain, behaviour, body, and many other mysteries. But many aspects of their lifestyle also make them increasingly vulnerable to extinction. In 2018, the giant manta ray was listed as threatened under the US Endangered Species Act. Because giant manta rays are plankton eaters, they have likely also ingested a large amount of microplastics, and we do not yet know what effect this has on the health of this animal that can live for over 40 years. They are also vulnerable to most forms of fishing, and in their shallow water habitats, giant manta rays are frequently struck by boats on the surface. Some people also hold the misguided belief that manta ray gill plates provide health and vitality to those who consume them, so giant mantas are killed in large numbers to harvest a body part with no proven value. Researchers are doing their best to understand the behaviour of manta rays in order to protect them. This could mean creating safe breeding areas for them, or tracking their movements as they return from the deep sea to shallow waters. The more we know, the more we can ensure that human activities do not interfere with their activities. And what do you think about this impressive giant? Leave your opinion in the comments below.